So Legere just released these brand new French cut reeds. They're the darkest reeds that they make, and in fact on their website they say the French cut Legere reeds are dark with a perfect amount of resistance for the discerning musician. Well, I bet you're a discerning musician. I am too. And if you watch this channel, you'll know that I'm already a fan of Legere reeds, but what do these new ones sound like? Well, I'm going to play them for you today and share my thoughts on them. Plus also I've got some tips on how you can improve your tone on your saxophone. So we've got lots to talk about today. I've been on a bit of a classical saxophone tangent this week, I'll be honest with you. That's Clair de Lune. It's part of a new lesson that we're doing inside Sax School. We've actually got a whole bunch of classical tunes inside Sax School, along with about 1,000 other things. The 14-day trial is still running. If you want to check out how we're helping all those players at the moment, then grab the link in the description down below. Now, I want to dig into these French cut reeds, but first, I want to have a chat with you about your tone. Yeah, come in a bit closer. Yeah, I want to talk about your tone because you want to get a better tone, right? I do too. I want to get a better tone on my saxophone, but tell me this, are you working on any classical things in your practice? Now, hang on, just before you click away from the video, I know not everybody wants to be a classical saxophone player. Absolutely, I get that. I don't want to be a full-time classical player either, but I do work on classical material, as do most of the best pro players out there. There's a really good reason for that, and it's because working on classical material will help you to definitely improve your tone, your dexterity, in fact, just about every aspect of your playing. And in fact, there's 3 big ways that working on classical material will really help you in your playing. The first one is versatility. Now, I get it. You might just be a blues player or be thinking, Nigel, I just play in a funk band or I just play in a ska band. But here's the thing, most of our sax players, probably say 99% of saxophone players, are going to find themselves playing in a whole range of situations. And being versatile is super important. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have the flexibility to play in any style and sound convincing? The second big thing is expression. Now, believe it or not, working on classical material is going to give you a much broader range of expression possibilities on your saxophone. So you'll be able to play softer softs, you'll be able to play louder louds, and that means that you're going to be able to get more expression, more connection with music in any style that you play, whether that's playing a jazz ballad, whether that's playing a pop tune, or just working on a lovely classical melody. Now, the third way that working on classical material is going to help you is it's going to make your tone better in any style. So whether you're a jazz player or a pop player or a blues player, working on classical material will develop your embouchure, and that in turn will help you to have a richer, warmer, stronger sound. Okay, you get the idea. I've got 3 things that you can do to improve your tone today, actually. But first, let's dig into these reeds. So there's 3 main flavors of these Legere reeds. We've got the new French cuts, we've got the American cut, and we've got the signature. Now, in terms of dark to bright, I suppose they go French cut, and then they go signature, and then they go American cut at the bright end. And what I do like is Legere have got this really cool scale that they've got on the back of their boxes. And you can see on this here that the French cut are noticeably darker on the scale, and the American cuts are definitely more on the bright end. Now, one of the main complaints about synthetic reeds, and in fact it's the thing that put me off playing synthetics for like 20 years, is that they can be a little bit bright. I've tried just about every brand of synthetics on the market. The ones that I can live with, that I really do like, are these Legeres, and I tend to play the signatures because for me they are a good balance of not too bright but also flexible, let me do pretty much everything that I want to do on them. But I do find the American cuts for me are just a little bit too bright, so I tend to not play them. So for me though, this week I've been really enjoying the French cut reeds, and they do sound to me darker. The response on them is very even. I did find that they tend to play a little bit harder. So for example, this 2.5 French cut reed just feels slightly more resistant than a 2.5 signature reed, even though they're the same size. But that resistance also gives me a little bit of extra body when I'm playing, which helps me to really fill out those long phrases when I'm playing a melody like Clair de Lune. Now I have to tell you, my initial reservation about trying the French cut reeds was that they might be too dark for me, because I really do want something that's versatile, and I would suggest that a versatile reed for you is also a good option. So in sax school, one day I might be teaching a classical melody, the next day I might be teaching a DJ sax thing. We've got such a range of things inside sax school, pretty much every style you could imagine. So for me, every day in the studio when I come in here on alto or tenor or soprano or bari, I'm playing something in a different style. It has to be versatile. So what I do like about these French cuts is they are dark, but I can still get a pretty bright sound. Now I mentioned before that so many great saxophone players also have a foundation in classical, or at least work on classical music in their repertoire. One of my favorite British players is a guy called Nigel Hitchcock. This week I was checking out his Hypnosis Orchestra album, which is just, it's mind-blowing. There's some amazing tracks on there. And this one caught my ear, and I had to have a go at it. And this is definitely a classical track. I can't quite do it as fast as Nigel, but check this out. Okay, so let's talk about how I go about building my classical tone in my practice routine. Maybe you could incorporate some of these things into your practicing too. The first thing that I really focus on is my warm-up. Now look, yeah, there's lots of different ways to do a warm-up. There's some brilliant resources online. We've got some fantastic resources inside Sax School. But I can tell you with my own experience that when I'm working on classical material, I really need to get my embouchure engaged. And the best way I know how to do that is using a warm-up with intervals and a tuner. It's really simple. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. The way I do it though is by starting on a fundamental note, say a B flat, with a drone on my tuner rather than watching it with my eyes. So I'm listening with my ears. And then I play the low B flat and I work up in fifths and in octaves. Check this out. Now, of course, if you're a more advanced player, you could push that all the way up into the altissimo as well. And once I'm feeling comfortable with the B flat, I'll move on to B. And I'll even move up to the C as well. Now it takes me about 5 minutes to get through this warm-up, but it really engages my embouchure. But I'll also go back and revisit the things that I'm struggling with, like for example, the second octave C on that last warm-up. I think I need to spend some more time on that one. Now another great exercise to boost your tone is to work on simple overtones. Not the complicated ones, just the first, second, and third overtones in the series. There's a video up here that might help you with that actually if you want to check out that a bit more. So the second thing you can really think about is the way that you approach breathing when you're playing a melody. So it's really important that we think about blowing from the bottom of our lungs and pushing the air through, filling the saxophone with air, but also filling out the phrase with sound. I hear a lot of players that cut off that last note of a phrase and they just throw it away and they don't let the air support the note right to the very end. Big mistake. So what we really want to be doing is thinking about blowing all the way through the phrase and filling up our notes as much as possible. Another way to think about this is imagine if your melody was represented visually with a shape. For a lot of people, they're playing a melody and it's made up of little dots of sound with spaces in between. But what we really need to be doing is to be thinking about it almost like a continuous stroke of sound where everything is joined up together. Check out this phrase, for example. So the third thing you can work on is beautiful, slow melodies. Now, of course, these could be pop melodies, these could be jazz melodies, but by focusing on classical melodies, it really forces you to focus with a lot more clarity on the way you start your notes, the way that you control your vibrato, your intonation, the way you blow through the phrases. So classical melodies are just so good for this. And if you really approach them in the right way with a lot of focus, it will give your embouchure a massive workout. And this is why we can develop our embouchure, develop our tone control, and get all the benefits that I mentioned before. So inside Sax School, we've got a whole section on classical saxophone, which we call the Introduction to Classical Saxophone. Claire de Lune that I've been playing today is part of that course. Don't forget the 14-day trial is available down below if you'd like to go and check that out and see if you can try some of those classical melodies and see how they help you to improve your tone too. So I'm going to play through the entire track of Claire de Lune now. I'm using the French Cut Reeds in a 2.5. Let me know in a comment down below what you think about the quality of the sound. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Don't forget the full lesson on Claire de Lune and all the other resources are available inside Sax School. 14-day trial is available down below. I'll see you on the next lesson.